What's up folks, Lambert here at Lambert P Productions. Awesome to be back and doing another video for you guys. Today I wanted to take a moment to answer a question that I actually get asked very often because we hashtag it so often and we talk about it so much, is as to why I shoot in RAW. But to understand why I shoot RAW first, I kind of want to explain what a RAW file is. So we'll get into that first. We'll jump into this. To understand this, first, when you take a photo generally on your camera, you press the shutter button, the camera captures all the light and all the detail that comes into the lens and the sensor at that moment, and it judges things like the light temperature and the color of in the situation that you find yourself in, and then it compresses all that information down into a manageable JPEG file. Now when you go into the settings of your camera, you can change that over into RAW. Now what RAW means there is that you put the processor of your camera on the back burner. You kind of stop it. So when you press the shutter button, all the light and all the data that comes in is taken as is, and it is saved on a single file on your memory card, which is then a RAW file. It's all that raw data, completely uncompressed, completely unprocessed, just the way it is, and it's on your memory card for you to then take into a program or into a software and edit afterwards. So in oversimplified terms, that is what a RAW file is. Now, unfortunately, with everything that we do when it comes to not only photography but to life, there are pros and cons to what we do, and because I prefer to do the negative stuff first, so I can focus a little more on the positive stuff, let's get to the cons. The first big con that you have to understand when it comes to taking RAW photos is the fact that a RAW photo is so much larger. Your RAW photos are going to tend to be around 2 to 3 times larger than a JPEG file, simply because it is uncompressed and unprocessed. So if I take, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I did a show for a local artist. I did half in JPEG, half in RAW files, and my RAW files were about 30 to 40 megabytes on a file, where my JPEGs were 10, 15 at a maximum. The largest one I have is about 23 megabytes, which is a really colorful photo. So that's the biggest JPEG file I have, where the RAWs are so much larger. And what that means for you practically is the fact that in the shooting situation you find yourself in, it's going to take much more space in your memory card, and it's going to slow down your camera because it's so much larger to process. And when you actually take that photo from the memory card and you put it into the system, whether that be your laptop or a big computer that you use to actually process your photos, it's going to take so much more space on that system, and it's going to take much more processing power to open and edit because that photo is so much larger. And because that photo is so much larger, and because it's uncompressed and unprocessed by the camera, you absolutely have to process that image in some way. That's the second con. The fact that a lot of people don't have the software that you do, or the extensions for the photo apps that you do, so they can't open that NEF or DNG file, that RAW file that you have on your system. So you are going to have to take that file and you're going to have to open it in a processing software and process that photo in your own way, and then export it into a JPEG file, which is generally accepted by all your clients and all the social media. If you're going to post that on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, you have to process it into a JPEG file. That's unfortunately, that's just a fact that you have to deal with when it comes to your photography. And when you're just starting, if you go back to my portfolio, you'll see at the beginning I was shooting JPEG and then I went over to RAW. If you go into that transition phase and you transition into using RAW files, you find that your processing takes so much longer because you actually have to process a photo. You can't just use the plain JPEG file. So a process that might have taken you an hour or an hour and a half when it was just JPEGs now takes you 3, 4, 5, even longer, maybe 9, 10 hours to then process, because you absolutely have to process that file from the RAW file onto a JPEG So it's in a generally accepted file type that you can just send away. But those are the big cons. Before I go into the pros, just I have to say this note is the fact that this is not a comprehensive list whatsoever. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of lists all over the internet with a lot of reasons as to why people choose RAW or choose JPEG or choose one over the other, and the pros and the cons. So if you want to go and look that up, you are most welcome to go and look it up and find even more reasons. These are my reasons why I choose to shoot in RAW in certain circumstances. So we got the veggies out of the way. Now let's get to the sweet stuff. The pros of using RAW files and the things that make RAW files so amazing. The first thing that you have to understand is because that file is totally uncompressed, it is the highest quality that your camera is capable of producing. So if you take a 24 megapixel file from your camera and you put it onto your laptop, it's this huge, deeply detailed, uncompressed file which looks really cool and it looks good, and it's really satisfactory when you take that RAW file and you see it in camera and you can bring it into the system and you open it on the big screen and it looks so nice. All that detail, it just looks great, so it's great to work with. The second thing is because that photo is uncompressed and it's so highly detailed, is that if you have maybe underexposed or overexposed something, or maybe you got the white balance wrong with that photo, it's so much easier to fix. If you put that photo, that RAW file through Lightroom or Camera Raw, or if you use Coral have a program called Aftershot that you can use as well to process your RAW files, and you put it through that, it's so much easier to fix something like an over or underexposure or a white balance mistake or something like that, because it is such a higher quality photo. So if you fix something small like that, you don't lose the quality and the detail of the photo. In fact, you can get more detail into a photo through that than if you had a JPEG. The third thing is the fact that processing RAW files is non-destructive. So the moment I take it into Lightroom and I've done my processing on Lightroom, I have to export that file into a JPEG, which I then take, and for social media I might put on a frame or a watermark or a different type of weird filter or something like that. But I can always go back onto Lightroom and I can get that original file and retouch it again or change a setting or something. So I always have that raw photo to go back with. Even if that JPEG should get lost or something like that, I always have that raw file, which is so awesome. Again, I like using the word awesome. And the fourth thing, everyone who knows me knows that I love printing my photos. And the awesome thing about printing a raw file is the fact that you get all that detail that's in that photo file onto your physical photo paper. And I'll tell you, there is nothing that sets a better impression for your customers than if they walk into your office or into your studio and they can look at a big giant print of one of your photos, and it's huge, but it's still this deep quality, and it's very detailed, and the contrast looks good and everything like that. And that's the advantage of another advantage of using RAW, is because you get that deep quality printing. So it's so cool for me, just because I love having that hard copy in my hand that I can grab and hold on to and show off. And it's really satisfactory when you can print a file from your computer and it's nice and big and it looks really good. It just boosts your confidence as a photographer. So that's a big suggestion for me. If you can, print your photos. One last thing for me before I close off this video is an update to the Matric Farewell Photo Competition. If you haven't entered already, I'm going to link down in the description below to our website. Go over and put in your entry for the Matric Farewell Photo Competition. If you have a Matric Farewell this year, if you're in Matric, if you're going to a Matric Farewell with someone, do not miss out. That 2,000 Rand Matric Farewell photo package is still up for grabs. The competition closes this Saturday, the 10th of June at midnight. If you haven't got a ticket, you haven't got a chance to win. Do not miss out on that. That's all from me for today. I hope to hear from you guys. Go into the comments below. Comment on the video if you do so, if you want to do so. Like and subscribe if you feel that way. And until next time, always remember to shoot the people that you love, but only with your camera.